Geronimo, the legendary Apache warrior who fought against the Mexican and American forces in the late 19th century. Geronimo was born in the 1820s into the Bedonkohe band of the Apache tribe in what is now Arizona. From a young age, he witnessed the brutality of the Mexican soldiers who attacked his village and killed his family. This tragic event sparked a deep hatred for the Mexican forces and a burning desire for revenge that would shape the rest of his life. Geronimo was known for his remarkable ability to escape from the reservations where the U.S. government had confined the Apache people. He broke free multiple times, refusing to accept the limitations imposed upon his people and their way of life. Each time he escaped, he would return to his traditional lands and lead his band of warriors in raids against American and Mexican settlements. Geronimo's guerrilla tactics were a major reason why he was so feared and respected by both his enemies and his own people. He was a master of using the terrain to his advantage, setting up ambushes and launching surprise attacks that would catch his opponents off guard. His warriors were skilled fighters who could strike quickly and then disappear into the mountains, leaving the soldiers who pursued them frustrated and exhausted. One of Geronimo's most famous tactics was to divide his band into small groups that would attack simultaneously from different directions. This created chaos and confusion among the soldiers, who often didn't know where the next attack would come from. Geronimo's warriors were also expert marksmen who could pick off soldiers from a distance with their bows and arrows or rifles. After decades of fighting and evading capture, Geronimo finally surrendered to the U.S. Army in 1886. This marked a turning point in the long and bitter conflict between the Apache people and the American government. Geronimo's decision to surrender was not an easy one. He had spent most of his life fighting against the Americans and the Mexicans, and he had become a symbol of Apache resistance and pride. However, he also knew that his people were suffering and that the odds against them were becoming increasingly dire. The surrender took place in Skeleton Canyon, Arizona, where Geronimo and his band of warriors met with General Nelson A. Miles and a group of Apache scouts who had been working with the U.S. Army. Geronimo agreed to lay down his arms and accept the terms of surrender, which included a promise that he and his people would be treated fairly and allowed to return to their homeland. After his surrender in 1886, Geronimo and his followers were taken as prisoners of war by the U.S. government. They were sent to Florida, where they were held in harsh conditions at Fort Pickens and Fort Marion. Many of the Apache prisoners died from disease and malnutrition during this time, as they were not used to the humid climate and unfamiliar food. Geronimo himself struggled with the confinement and the loss of his freedom. He was used to roaming the wide-open spaces of the Southwest, and the restrictions of prison life weighed heavily on him. However, he also used this time to learn more about American culture and to try to advocate for better treatment of his people. In 1894, Geronimo and the other Apache prisoners were moved to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. This was a slightly better situation than Florida, as the climate was more similar to what they were used to. However, they were still confined to the fort and were not allowed to return to their homeland. During his time at Fort Sill, Geronimo gained a measure of celebrity status. He was invited to take part in various public events, such as the 1901 Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, and President Theodore Roosevelt's 1905 inauguration parade. These appearances allowed him to interact with the American public and share his story. Geronimo also collaborated with a white man named S.M. Barrett to dictate his life story, which was later published as a book titled Geronimo's Story of His Life. This memoir provided a rare opportunity for Geronimo to share his experiences and perspectives with a wider audience. Despite these moments in the spotlight, Geronimo's life as a prisoner remained difficult. He constantly longed for his homeland and his people, feeling a deep sense of homesickness that never abated. The confinement of captivity weighed heavily on him, and he struggled to adapt to this new way of life. While he made efforts to learn about American culture and advocate for better treatment of his fellow prisoners, Geronimo never truly felt at ease in his new circumstances. The pain of being separated from his native land and his loved ones was a constant presence in his life, underscoring the challenges and heartbreak he faced as a prisoner of war. Geronimo's experience as a prisoner of war highlights the injustices and hardships faced by Native American people in the aftermath of their conflicts with the U.S. government. Many were forced onto reservations or into prison camps, where they faced disease, malnutrition, and the loss of their traditional ways of life. Geronimo's story is a reminder of the human cost of these policies and the resilience of the Native American spirit in the face of adversity. Geronimo's life and legacy have made him an enduring symbol of Native American resistance and struggle. His name has become synonymous with courage, defiance, and the fight for freedom in the face of overwhelming odds. Geronimo represents the spirit of resistance against the injustices they have faced for centuries. He fought against the encroachment of American and Mexican forces on Apache lands, and he refused to accept the confinement and restrictions of reservation life. His willingness to stand up for his people and his way of life, even in the face of impossible odds, has inspired generations of activists and leaders. However, Geronimo's life is not without controversy. Some have criticized him for his violent tactics and for the raids he led against American and Mexican settlements. Others have argued that his actions were a necessary response to the violence inflicted on his people by the U.S. government and settlers. Geronimo's death in 1909 marked the end of an era. He was one of the last leaders to resist the expansion of the United States and the confinement of people to reservations. His passing symbolized the end of a way of life that had existed for centuries in the American Southwest. Geronimo's impact on American culture has endured long after his death. His name and image have been used in countless ways, from military operations to consumer products. He has been depicted in movies, books, and television shows, often in stereotypical or inaccurate ways. Geronimo's courage, defiance, and commitment to his people have showcased the human spirit's ability to resist oppression and fight for justice. Geronimo's life continues to inspire and challenge us today. His life is the resilience and courage of the Apache people and a reminder of the ongoing struggle for rights and justice. What lessons can we learn from Geronimo? How can we honor him today? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe to The Archaeotrek for more fascinating tales from the past. Until next time, keep exploring.